here. Walnut is a little bit further away taking a nap. So we're going to focus on Grace, talking all about her path to Minnesota, the work, playing basketball, off season, such as it is called, and much more. Locked On Women's Basketball starts now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm your host, Howard Megdal, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen every day. Over 340,000 of you showed up in April alone, the way we show up for you 6 days a week. And of course, it's not just me, it is the incredible team across the board over at the Next, at thenexthoops.com, where we have over 100 reported pieces every single month on the past, present, and future of women's basketball. We have beat reporters on each individual team in the WNBA. Our previews are rolling out right now. I'm loving every minute of it. If you want these all in your inbox, subscribe. $9 a month, $72 a year to make sure we're able to do the work of covering this league, this sport, the way it deserves to be covered. And somebody who I've had the privilege of covering dating back to your freshman year, actually, at Indiana, was the first time you were on this podcast. We didn't have 340,000 listeners a month back then, but we are delighted to always be able to catch up with you. And Grace, the place I want to start is from the moment that you moved from the Indiana Fever to Minnesota Lynx. And if you'll permit me a bit of host priority just to talk about this, I've said since your freshman year of college, it's a matter of when, not if, you're in the WNBA, as as I'm sure our listeners remember. And when I saw that you were placed on waivers, my first initial thought was, A, okay, well, that's not going to last long, and somebody's going to pick her up. And B, boy, Minnesota would be a particularly good fit for you. Can you kind of take me through your thinking about that process and just sort of what your experience was going through that, over that period of a few days?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I remember talking to Cheryl before I even went through the draft process back in 2023. Just got to get to know her a little bit, really enjoyed our conversation. Have always enjoyed watching the Lynx play, obviously scouting against them for the past couple of years, gotten more familiar with them. And they just, play the right way. She's a really good coach. Everyone's really bought into the system that she wants. And obviously a lot of really good players. So, to say I was thrilled when I figured out Minnesota would be my next spot is an understatement. I'm just really grateful to be here. It's really easy to kind of fit into these players, the way they like to play, figure it out. Like I said, they play the right way. So they make it easy for me. And so I've really been enjoying being here.
There's obviously a culture fit on the court with both the way in which you look for the more efficient shots. I know Cheryl talked a little bit about this during training camp, the fact that, she's looking to extend you beyond the mid-range a little bit more. I know that's been a point of emphasis for you as well within your own personal game. What's that been like so far, and what are the mechanics of that? Because we see it time and time again. Players come to Minnesota and their percentages increase, especially from beyond the arc.
Yeah, I mean, I think, when I'm out there this year, it's going to be with a lot of really, really good players. So anything that I can do to help make their lives easier, is what my role kind of is. And I think spacing the floor is a big part of that to give, Fee, Courtney, people like that space to work. So I think, I'm confident in my three ball. I've worked really hard on it. Now it's just recognizing, when to shoot it, where the right places to be on the court are. When maybe I can attack downhill and still get to, my spots down there, and when I just need to, get my feet settled and shoot the shot. So just recognizing the right opportunities, I'd say I'm confident in it. Now it's just a matter of figuring out, when's the right time to shoot it.
What's interesting for me, and people oftentimes here in the States lose sight of it, but so much of the work is taking place overseas as well. Now, obviously in 2024 at AU, but in terms of being able to play in Turkey, being able to play at that level, it's one thing. to be able to play in what amounts to similar competition in the WNBA, some of the same literal players, right? But the other part of it is they work you. You are playing consistently minutes on par with, you were at like 36.4, if I remember right, your fourth year in Indiana, with the Hoosiers. And there are times you're playing 38, 39, 40 minutes there. I ask all that to say, does that make it easier, the repetitions of getting those shots from beyond the arc, when you are playing what amounts to full games, and translating that back here, where Cheryl has typically a strict minutes limit on, every one of her players?
Yeah, I mean, so we only had one game a week, which isn't ideal, but we're outside of that for, 5 out of those 6 days where we don't have games. We're playing full court 5-on-5. That's what my experience with overseas practice. That pretty much a lot of up and down, a lot of playing, which really, after not getting a lot of minutes in the W the past couple years, that's what I needed. So it was perfect situation for me, and really, so not only in those games when, like you said, you are playing against other people that, some teams have 4, 5, 6 people that have had WNBA experience on them. So you're playing against really good competition. That's great as well. But also getting those kind of practice reps at it where you can maybe do things that you're not necessarily comfortable doing in a game, just kind of experiment with different things, getting my three up. Getting my three up off the dribble, different things like that that I might not do in a game, but just getting more comfortable with it, kind of seeing what I can do. So it was great to work on those aspects of my game that I, might not be able to do here in the W.
And obviously, and again, when I talk about the fit, there's these multiple different ways in which it makes sense. And your mid range has been a deadly part of your game since the moment you arrived on the college. Actually, where does it even date from? Because I first got to see you play as a freshman in Indiana. So, like, when did you become this mid-range master that you've become?
Um, I'd say probably high school.
Yeah,
Probably
yeah.
high school around that time. Yeah.
So you're bringing that to the table in an offense which obviously has made room for Courtney Williams, who takes more mid-range jump shots per 40 minutes than anyone since, I believe, Cappy Pondexter in the
Mhm.
WNBA. So, clearly there's room for it in the offense. How do you sort of strike that balance as well? Because there's a lot of folks who talk about analytics meaning just at the rim or beyond the arc, and that's it. But obviously, getting a great shot is more complicated than that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been great for me to have Courtney to watch every day in training camp. Obviously, watch her in the games too. Um, just up close and personal, asking her questions, figuring out, she is really good in the mid range. That's where she lives. That's where her money is, like myself. But she's also really good at getting downhill, finding that pocket pass, hitting the roll on a dump off, and kind of using the threat of her mid range shot to her advantage, to our advantage on the offensive end. So I think watching her figuring out how she kind of decides when to shoot it, when to pass it, maybe when to shoot that three to get all the way to the rim, different things like that. She obviously has had a lot of success doing that. So I think she, really can't think of anyone more perfect than Courtney Williams to, have me learn from.
And it's been fascinating. And again, just, to our listeners to understand, your story is just beginning. Courtney Williams has gone through 3 or 4 evolutions as a player through her decade in this league. And so I'm fascinated to see that. I'm also just fascinated by the pairing of having you get the chance to work with Lindsay Whalen. And so, obviously, listeners are well aware of the overlap, coming through Big Ten stardom. And, it's interesting to me to think of the ways in which you were both at times in college, your prototypical one, your prototypical two, and a combination therein. When you work with Lindsay, what is the major focus on? Is it on game management? Is it primarily on where you're getting your shots? Kind of take me through what that work's been so far.
I mean, I'd say it's been a little bit of everything. I really can't pinpoint one thing. I
Yeah.
mean, even from just watching film with her, her showing me her ball handling that she did before every game, before every practice, doing that with me, getting an individual skill work with her before practice. And then obviously throughout practice, throughout game, she's giving me feedback, telling me where, I can make things easier for myself, easier for the offense. And I mean, she was one of the greatest point guards of all time. So having that to be able to learn from. And then also she's obviously had a lot of success in Cheryl's system. Won a lot of games for the Minnesota Lynx, obviously won championships, and that's our goal this year. So, I can learn how to be a player in the system, how to be a point guard. Really, I think the opportunities to learn from Lindsay Whalen are endless. So I'm really excited. I go into the gym every day, just excited to learn from her.
It's awesome to hear. And so much more with Grace Berger. We're going to talk about just bigger picture, what it is to make a living playing professional hoops right now, because it has changed markedly even since the moment you entered the league. And we're going to also talk more about Lynx life. Back after these ads, I'm Howard Megdal. You're listening to Locked On Women's Basketball. Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by Hungry Root. And in my house, everyone always has something going on. It is a very busy season. WNBA is around the corner. It is both recital and concert season for my children. So we don't have a lot of time to go grocery shopping. That's why I use Hungry Root. Hungry Root is like having your own personal shopper and nutritionist wrapped into one. They take care of grocery shopping and meal planning, offering personalized recommendations based on your taste and health goals. And they vary here. My older daughter is a vegetarian. My younger daughter is not. Trying to make sure we're getting a meal that works for everyone, that my wife is happy with. All of these things come together, and Hungry Root is how we do it. So you can do this too by taking advantage of an exclusive deal. Get 40% off your first box plus a free item in every box for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/lockedonnba and use code LockedOnNBA. That's hungryroot.com/lockedonnba, code LockedOnNBA for 40% off and a lifetime free item. Locked On Women's Basketball also brought to you by Monarch Money. If you ever have checked your bank account and wondered where your money went, Monarch Money is here to make that a thing of the past. Monarch Money is your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. It's not just a budgeting app, it is a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So when you stop just managing your money, you can start building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for 50% off your first year. Howard Megdal here, Locked On Women's Basketball, back with Grace Berger. And Grace, we talked a little bit about it and we've touched on it, but playing professional basketball means being in a lot of different places. We referenced Walnut, the great and beloved dog, but even just being a dog owner alone, the type of thing that contemporaries of yours who are in other professions don't even have to think about. What is that like as you're pursuing this dream, to be able to figure out just like day-to-day life questions as you're playing here, as you're playing overseas?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of really hard aspects of it. I think what you hit on is definitely the hardest. I mean, I've lived in, over the past probably 14 months, I've lived in Dallas for Athletes Unlimited, then Indianapolis, then went home to Kentucky, then obviously moved to Turkey for 6 months. Wasn't able to bring my dog. He had to stay home with my grandparents. So that was really hard. And then obviously moved back pretty much right away to Minnesota. So it's nonstop. Life is always on the road. I pretty much am used to living out of a couple suitcases, but at the end of the day, I get to play basketball for a living. So I think pretty much everyone out there would trade places with the WNBA players if they could. So I just try to keep that in perspective. I'm doing what I love. So if that means having to live in a foreign country for a couple months, then so be it. But yeah, there's definitely days where it's a little challenging.
I'm sure. What are things you bring from home? What are ways in which you kind of have those reminders, that kind of help you get through those periods of time?
Lots of pictures. My apartment in Turkey was pretty much filled with pictures of Walnut, and then I have a nephew that just turned 1, so pictures of him too. And then just FaceTiming them whenever I could. It was only a 7-hour time difference, which wasn't great, but got to FaceTime them, keep in touch. So we made it work.
Yeah, I mean and that's not a small thing. As we know, the previous generations didn't even have FaceTime while they were playing overseas, playing here in the WNBA. But it is also, again, it feels like an opportunity that very few people have to be able to live and experience different countries, different cultures. Are you feeling like you're able to do that, or is the practice schedule just so overwhelming that it gets really hard to be able to kind of see the world as you're seeing the world?
Yeah, I wish I would have probably traveled a little bit more. But when you're practicing for 3, 4 hours a day, sometimes you just want to go home and lay in bed and FaceTime people from home.
Yeah.
Definitely get a little homesick, but I got out and explored Turkey quite a bit, saw Istanbul. I was in the capital, Ankara, so
Yeah.
I got to see how the locals live a little bit, try local food, different things like that. But in the future, hopefully I get to explore different countries and get out a little bit more.
Do you have one particular food that you recommend if people go to Turkey that they must try?
Oh God, get me on the spot.
Yeah, no, I don't mean to put you on the spot there, and you're welcome to name
Um,
2 or 3 if this isn't a test.
They have some really good desserts. So
Okay.
baklava, I believe, is what it's called.
Yeah.
Kind of like a pistachio thing. So that was probably my favorite. And I definitely missed that a little bit being back in the States.
Yes, dual endorse on baklava here from the host as well. So
Yes.
that,
Yes.
I am with you. I wonder how it feels, and as we mentioned up top, we've talked about this before you got to the pros, before you got to this part of your dream. Is this the way you envisioned it? Did you see professional playing being like this? What are sort of the ways in which it reminds you of what you expected, and what's been sort of the biggest surprise for you over that experience?
I mean, I wouldn't say, it's full of surprises every day. You never know what you're gonna expect.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously I had a lot of hard times my first 2 years, had a lot of really good times too, but a lot of challenges. Obviously, it's hard to be a rookie in the WNBA. It's hard for the first couple years until you really find your place on a roster. So it's been challenging, but I feel like I've learned a lot and grown a lot for it. And I feel like I'm right where I belong right now. So I wouldn't ultimately change a thing. So um, definitely different than I expected, but it's been a really fun journey at the same time.
And up and down the roster in Minnesota, there are players who have had to make that same fight, right? Who are maybe a little further along in it, having been in the league a few more years. Have there been folks who you've either been able to see in Minnesota or just simply by knowing their stories? Alana Smith was somebody who, I mean, it was a good 5 years before she was able to find consistent playing time with the Chicago Sky before coming to Minnesota and becoming such a significant part of this team. Has that allowed you to sort of provide an aid on your journey?
Yeah, I mean, the first person that would come to mind even before being here was Carly Samuelson, I
Yeah.
think. She's just a great example of um, what perseverance looks like. And I was
Mhm.
talking to her a little bit about it, and she said, she just loves the game so much. So it was never, um, she never looked at the downsides of it. She just wanted to keep playing, keep going overseas, keep getting better every single year. And she knew it would eventually work out. And I feel like I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I love the game. So whatever challenges comes with it, I'm just going to keep my head down and keep working. Um, and eventually I feel confident that it will work out for me at some point as long as I keep working, keep improving year in and year out. So definitely a lot of great examples here, great people to kind of lean on as I go through this journey myself.
Yeah, Carly's been great, has been on the show, has persevered through everything. I would be remiss not to mention Tuesday, May 13th, 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. Minneapolis time. You and Carly are going to Neighborhood House in order to be in the community. This is again something you have brought everywhere you have been. Every part of this, you consider it. It seems like part of the job. I'm wondering, do you feel like it's an obligation? Do you feel like it's an opportunity? What is it to be in the community and be surrounded by people who you get to influence in the way that you have?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the community gives a lot to us by just showing up, supporting us. I've had a lot of Lynx fans that I'm just running into walking Walnut on the street. A lot of people that are really excited about the Lynx and the WNBA in general. So they're, giving to us. We want to give back to them in any way that we can. And then obviously, whenever it's kids, I think I get a little extra excited because, it wasn't that long ago that I remember thinking that WNBA players and NBA players were like the coolest thing ever. So I would have probably freaked out if one of them would have taken the time to come and just hang out with me for a few minutes. So just the way that I know that we can impact them in the platform that we have, any chance I can to get out there in the community and just give back to them is something that I get really excited about.
It's great to see. It's not a surprise, but it's great to see. And you'll be joined, I would be remiss not to mention this, by Prowl as well.
Oh yeah.
A mascot, one of the best mascots who predates Ellie. So I think it's important that there's sort of a proto Ellie in a certain way. Back with some final thoughts with Grace Berger right after this. I am Howard Megdal. You're listening to Locked On Women's Basketball. But first, Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by FanDuel. And there is a league for men to play basketball professionally as well. It's called the NBA, the National Basketball Association. And Grace, I even understand there's a team in Minnesota. Is that correct?
I think so. I think you're right.
There's the Timberwolves, and they're playing quite well lately. So the NBA playoffs are in full swing, and it's a real opportunity every night while you wait for the start of WNBA season to begin. And as we've talked about on the show, men's basketball is a wonderful way to pass the time in between women's basketball games. And FanDuel offers you an opportunity to do it while at the same time wager on the game. With player props, performance trends, same game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And now, if you sign up over at FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet, if you win, you get $200 in bonus bets. Again, bet 5, get 200 if you win. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Yeah, good for the Timberwolves. They're a little bit behind the Lynx when it comes to championships all time, but they look like they're on their way. So we shall see. Howard Megdal here, back with Grace Berger, talking about the Lynx and championships. This is a team, I had the chance to see them up close to the very last moment, that you could argue came as close to any team to win a championship, but not winning a championship since Minnesota in 2016 lost by 1 point to the Los Angeles Sparks. And so as you join a team like that, how present, even if people aren't talking about it, is that feeling of we have come this close and we have unfinished business to go ahead and win this year?
Yeah, I think it was talked about a little bit early on, like the first day or two of training camp. We definitely talked about it, but then I think the mindset has kind of collectively been that it's a new year. We're not owed anything just because they had success last year, just because they made it to the championship, to right down to the final buzzer. Last year, we're not owed anything. It's a new year. We're going to have a X on our back. Obviously, teams around us are getting better. Teams across the league are getting better across the board. So we know that we have to keep building every day to hopefully get back to that point where we want to be.
For you, for somebody who, has these plans and dreams, a championship, a WNBA championship has to have been pretty high on that list. I mean, how significant is it for you to know that you're somewhere where, with the work put in, you guys have an opportunity to check something off your list that probably, I don't want to assume, but was at or near the very top for you?
Yeah, I mean it's fun. If you're playing in the W, you obviously want to be on a team that is that caliber, is competing for championships. So obviously Minnesota is definitely that, has a lot of stars players that I'm surrounded by. So just any way that I can on off the court that I can try to contribute to that, obviously I'm gonna do whatever I can. And but yeah, just take a day at a time, get better every day, and then hopefully things will work themselves out.
And that's probably the answer to this, but I'm curious, as you think about just individual goals for where you want to be this season? How do you kind of measure that success for you individually? And has that changed over the course of your pro career?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say this year, just because I am on a team that is pretty established, has been playing together for a long time. I don't really have any expectations for myself other than whatever the coaches want, whatever my teammates need from me, I'm going to try to do. Any role that I can bring to the team to make them better, to help us win games, I'm going to do. Obviously, there's a lot of stars on the roster, so whatever I can to be the best player I can be in my role, bring my strengths to the court, I'm going to do.
Well, Grace, it is always a pleasure speaking with you. Wherever you are at, it is always a pleasure for the teams that employ you to get the opportunity to do so. Minnesota fans, congratulations. You're going to enjoy rooting for Grace Berger. To our listeners, thank you for making us your first listen every day. We will be back with you tomorrow live from Los Angeles Sparks Media Day, taking you and getting you ready for the WNBA. It's finally here. So until then, I am Howard Megdal, wishing all of you a wonderful day.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.